But let's watch this video. X Halo Infinite and 343 devs slam incompetent leadership after Microsoft lays off 10,000 employees by YongYea.
And it's been utter carnage across. Oof, man, it's been utter carnage across the entire games industry when it comes to layoffs. Amidst this economic recession, we have been seeing more and more corporations prioritize their profit margins over the lives of the human beings who depend on their.
I feel like that would happen regardless of this recession, though. The way that the market goes with growth now, like companies have to make more and more money every fucking quarter, like an endless amount of growth. If they don't, well, then it just falls flat and no one cares anymore, and all the shareholders get mad pretty much. So they have to have infinite growth and infinite progression, and that means cutting people's pay and making a lot of work put on one person and reducing the entire amount of people who work for them. And that's awful.
Their jobs. And among the most
doesn't
severe
make any
cases
sense.
of this is Microsoft recently having laid off 10,000 employees. Remember how big of a deal it was when 4 years ago Activision Blizzard laid off roughly 800 people amidst record revenue year? Well, that pales in comparison to Microsoft's mass layoff. Reported yesterday on January 18th, the bullet points here read, Microsoft said it's letting go of 10,000 employees as the software maker braces for slower revenue growth, and in October, Microsoft called for the slowest quarterly growth since 2006.
The slowest quarterly growth. That means that they still grew, right? That means they still had like an increase. Keck W.
Divisions all across Microsoft were impacted by this latest round of layoffs, and chief among them were some of the gaming divisions under Microsoft's umbrella. As Jason Schreier reported here, Microsoft is
well, the reason why is, for what you said, the reason why is the shareholders. The shareholders see growth stop or slow, and they think that's like a precursor to the company dying. And so shareholders start pulling out. So you have to have this constant, like, ridiculous, like 5% plus growth every single quarter, or you're fucked. It's just crazy.
Laying off 10,000 people today, including in its gaming divisions such as Xbox and Bethesda. This mass layoff arrives exactly 1 year after Microsoft announced plans to purchase Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Further details can be found in the article itself titled Microsoft Cuts Include Game Divisions Behind Halo and Starfield. And scrolling down, it is detailed that some people at Bethesda Game Studios as well as 343 Industries were affected by the layoffs, according to people familiar with the matter. And for today's video, I specifically want to focus on 343 Industries because this is a studio that was hit especially hard by the layoffs, and
indeed,
it's raising
Panda.
some concerns about the future of the Halo franchise. It's not just more junior staff who are affected by this. Some of the people who lost their jobs were veterans who had been with Xbox for more than a decade. To address,
I'm not wrong when I say, or when I state that, like, layoffs are so that they can show that they made that much money, right? So you can basically say the yearly earning of an employee and multiply it by 10,000 and then add it to your how much money you make. Say, okay, so if I cut 10,000 employees, I now make, let's say they each make $80,000 times 10,000. I have now increased my earnings by that much for that year. And that's why they do that. That's why people get cut off. Yeah, it's a very short-term gain, yes.
address this unfortunate situation, here's what.
There are some cases, by the way, where like certain companies like hire a ton of stuff for esports. Esports doesn't work out and they have to cut a bunch of people, which to a degree I understand that, which I mean it sucks and it still shouldn't happen. They should still have better forethought than that. But it happens, and I understand how like sometimes you can over recruit and then make a mistake. But this is not what that is.
What 343 Industries studio head Pierre Hint said to employees and to staff via email, as reported here by Bloomberg. He told staff that the company made the difficult decision to restructure elements of our team, which means some roles are being eliminated. Now, with how hard 343 in particular was hit by the layoffs, That left many within the studio wondering, what does this mean for the future of Halo Infinite? And apparently what employees were told is that the studio would continue supporting Halo Infinite's multiplayer and live service elements. It's a shame that this is happening during a time when Halo Infinite seems to be back on the rise with the launch of the Forge mode, through which we've seen tons of amazing user-created content populate the game, and that has re-engaged.
Oh, they brought Forge mode back? Wasn't Forge mode, like, way back? I mean, I think it was, like, what, the third game? Halo 3? When Forge mode got introduced? Surprised that's back. That's awesome, though. Promised on release. Ah, okay. Halo 3. Okay, cool, I'm right. Thank you.
People back into Halo
Confirmations.
Infinite after a tumultuous launch period. It sucks that this is happening just as Halo Infinite seems to be catching some momentum again. It just raises questions as to whether Halo Infinite will have the manpower and resources to really make some kind of major recovery, especially when Joe Staten, the creative director and Halo veteran who joined 343 in 2020 to help steer Halo Infinite to the finish line, will depart that outfit and rejoin Xbox's broader publishing division. While he's not leaving Microsoft outright, he is no longer at 343 specifically. He's going to take on a broader role at Xbox, and that means he can't focus on Halo Infinite. And he was such a big part for why Halo Infinite was able to release in the first place amidst that tumultuous development cycle. Jason Schreier added additional context via this follow-up tweet that reads, "Microsoft won't share specific numbers, but several employees have told me that 343 Industries was hit hard. This comes in the wake of a long-running hiring freeze and a lot of contractor departures." Meanwhile, executives are being paid ridiculous sums of money, receiving dozens of millions of dollars worth of compensation.
That's the crazy part.
Right here, Jason Schreier made it a point to highlight that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella made $54.95 million in total compensation last year. Now,
that should, like, honest to God, the first people to lose their paycheck should be the CEOs. They're the first people that should be affected by this. The first.
Now, going back to Joseph Staten, a number of outlets made it a point to highlight the important role that he played for Halo Infinite and previous Halo.
I mean, you literally could cut that guy's like earnings in half, and probably pay everyone who got laid off.
So this Video Games Chronicle article, for example, noted that Joseph Staten previously worked on the very first Halo titles, among the more renowned Halo titles in the series, mostly focusing on story and characters. Staten was made project lead for Halo Infinite's campaign mode. And then Gene Park from the Washington Post provided additional background about Joseph Staten, stating that Staten was the lead writer of the original Halo games under Bungie, which are all actually cherished. He made a lot of changes to Infinite that were welcome. He was very much a positive force for 343 Industries and one of the last bastions of the IP, which he was there for since the beginning. And now with him gone, you know, that's going to definitely be a significant blow to the Halo franchise. Specifically, I think Staten's departure marks the end of additional support for the game's campaign mode, which Staten was made project lead of. That seems doubly likely when you consider that when Pierre Hintz talked to staff about how we're going to move forward with Halo Infinite, he specifically mentioned that they're going to continue support for Halo Infinite's multiplayer and live service elements, but there's no mention here about additional support for the game's campaign. Which really sucks because I really do feel like Halo Infinite's open world campaign has a ton of potential for further expansion. There's a co-op mode that never really came to light, that was canceled last minute, even though there is a co-op mode in the game that data miners found that works well enough as it is that they could have finished. Enjoyers of Halo campaigns, I think, were really done dirty.
I think the worst part about the greed isn't even like the money part of it. The worst part about greed and how people like get treated is how these games get released completely underdeveloped. Like, if this was 10 to 15 years ago, like, this would not be acceptable, like, at all. The amount that, like, when you release content and it being halfway done or only partially completed or only releasing the multiplayer mode, like, that shit just would not be accepted right now. It's insane. Like, make sure you have it all done. Your first impression of a game defines a series. If you have everything ready in a package, people's perception of that game is positive, and then you make more money for it. When you push things out, just get a quick thing for your quarter, which is really what the reason is for your quarterly earnings. You sacrifice so much in the process. I just don't like. There's no way the reputation management team at Xbox is that dumb. There's no way. It has to be the CEOs. It has to be. It's common sense as a reputational manager.
With Halo Infinite, Gene Park does try to sprinkle in some optimism by pointing out that the new studio boss, Pierre Hins, was part of the Master Chief Collection turnaround. That was a collection that had a very rough launch, but is now universally beloved, and so maybe Pierre can steer the ship in the right direction, but it doesn't change the fact that all of this is definitely going to have a negative impact on morale at the studio, and ultimately, valuable talent was lost. Others who lost their job include Christopher Blom, who, according to LinkedIn, was the design lead for a number of years and has been with 343 Industries since 2012 for over a decade, but that unfortunately didn't make him immune to Microsoft's layoff crosshairs. And it goes without saying that people within 343 Industries are heartbroken by these latest developments, and some developers have taken to speaking out about just the piss-poor leadership that they saw working at 343 Industries. Gene Park spotlighted Patrick Wren's tweet here, who was the former Halo senior multiplayer designer. Here's what Patrick Wren had to say about this whole situation. Had some pretty scathing and blunt words to share. The layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened, and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. Poor leadership ultimately being responsible for the failure of a major project should come as no surprise, even though the tendency for corporations is to try to shift the blame and onus of a project's failure to employees and staff who did their best and worked the hardest they could under the piss-poor conditions that they were given. The fact of the matter is that more often than not, it tends to be that poor leadership steered the ship astray and led to disastrous results. And you can.
Did you see the UBL CEO news? I did not. What happened? Also, quick thing on this. When are we gonna swap over to putting the blame onto the CEOs? Is that ever gonna happen? Like in my lifetime? Maybe not. But like, we need to swap at some point to being like, no, it's actually the people making the most money. Hey, Crimson. Yeah, probably not. You released a statement blaming all the devs working on the games. Dude, what a fucking clown. What an absolute clown, dude. I feel like every CEO is just a different version of Logan Paul. And if you don't know who Logan Paul is or anything about Logan Paul, they are all just different versions of Logan Paul.
Can see right here that a former senior developer at 343 Industries had no reservations about spotlighting this, about making sure that people know that poor leadership was the blame.
Thank you for the point donation.
Its failure, and not the lack of talent within 343 Industries or the lack of working hard enough. It was just a poorly managed project. Patrick Wren proceeded to add that the people I worked every day with.
Dude, show me a good CEO and then show me a unicorn. They're basically the same thing.
Were passionate about Halo and wanted to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Developers still there are working hard on that dream. Look at Forge. Be kind to them during this awful time. It's too early to say that this is going to mark the death of Halo. We'll see how things continue to develop for the game in the coming weeks, months, and years, even with this sort of diminished team with talent that has been stripped away. But certainly this is not going to be positively impactful. And apparently Patrick Wren is not alone in having these sentiments. Jason Schreier.
By the way, Jason Schreier is the GOAT. Jason Schreier needs to go down as one of the best reporters of all time. He better be remembered forever. I hope he is. That man is fantastic, a beautiful human being.
Reports via this tweet that these strong public words mirror what he's heard from many other Halo developers. Other problems, as we have reported, included the tools and a heavy reliance on contractors who had to be let go after 18 months. An aspect that Patrick Wren also complains about when another former developer who worked on Halo Infinite tweeted, "Don't forget the heavy reliance on contractors/vendors and that messed up system. Though I know that's more Microsoft, I would have loved to stay on the team if I could have and worked my way up. Still one of my favorite jobs I have been at." Patrick Wren responded with, "Oh man, the contract stuff is a whole other can of worms that pisses me off. So many amazing people and talent that just disappeared." Former developer for Halo Infinite, Nick, has no problem calling out Microsoft specifically, and below you'll find that a number of developers have responded by agreeing, saying, "Yup." Another developer who's not afraid to call out Microsoft is Tyler Owens here, who worked at 343 Industries during the Halo 5 era. He said, "As a Halo fan, I'm really tired of Microsoft."
Yo, how many Halos are there right now? Panda, you gotta know that. How many Halos are there? There's like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Reach. It's a lot. There's 6 main ones. There's a lot of fucking Halos, man.
Business practices and policies slowly killing the thing I love. Between the contracting policies they abuse for
Reach isn't included in the main ones. All right.
Tax incentives and layoffs in the face of gigantic profit/executive bonuses, they set up Halo for failure. Many developers are just getting fed up with corporate bullshit. Tyler Owens straight up just says, "I really don't care if I should be saying this or not publicly anymore. Screw it. I'm done just kind of being silent." And
I think the thing that bothers me the most about like game launches, at least not like beyond just the overworkload and like games being released with like unfinished titles, like Overwatch, like Halo, is I don't like the reward systems anymore. Like the unlocking of a game and unlocking of rewards for playing that game is like half the fun. Like you put in a lot of work, you fully beat the game and you get like a really cool costume. Or like you fully beat the game and you get a cool title. Like things like that are really cool. And I feel like everything is so battle pass centric at this point that you have to have gamer retention, and I really hate it, dude. I remember grinding for cosmetics. Where is that? I missed that. I 100%. That's exactly the truth. I really do miss that. I miss that those things being in the game on launch for free. You paid $60 and you got to unlock them off the get-go. That was all about your effort and your time put in. And it wasn't about how much money you had in your wallet. And that is honestly one of my biggest problems with games in general. So like when a game like Elden Ring or Breath of the Wild come out and they have like 1 million cosmetics and like 1,000 different armor sets and none of them are locked behind a paywall, like it makes me feel good because it's such a rarity these days. Exactly. I find it weird people pay for it. You are paying to not only play the game in my mind, but you're also playing for other stuff as well. Hey, Menno. This is the person doing my my VTuber model, by the way. Hello there, Mano. How you doing? You're paying to not try for challenge and not to do fun random things in games. I busted my ass for 2 of my Fang cosmetics. Can I just work for it? Because I dude, really though. I mean, like, I don't mind giving. So here's the thing that's weird, right? I don't mind like a subscription service. I don't mind a Battle Pass service. I just don't like the fact that like it's locked behind a day cap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind helping a live, like if it's a live service game, because most things are live service these days. I don't mind paying $4 a month or like $2 a month or $3 a month to support that live service because they have to continue the service to continue working on it. What I don't like is that the things that I pay for, if I don't play it a lot or consistently, they go away. That shouldn't be a thing. It should be an opt-in system that you can support the developers if you want to. Not you have to do this to get a unlocked cosmetic.
watching all of this unfold and not being able to say anything about it,
Exactly. If they charge monthly, there should be no in-game charges for extra things. I feel the same way about any MMO you play. There's no reason for any of that. Extra charges make no sense.
Developers are becoming less and less afraid to speak out, especially after how in recent years, after developers spoke out,
also, as I get older, the more I'm done with that kind of stuff. The older I get, the less patience I have.
tangible changes have happened. We've seen more unionization happen, so on and so forth. Now, there are those at 343 Industries who've been lucky enough to dodge the Microsoft bullet. Alex Wakeford here, who is a community writer at 343 Industries, tweeted, "Appreciate the concerned messages I've been receiving. I'm still at 343, but many incredible people are not. People who I was in work calls with, as usual, not knowing it was their last one before the news hit. Those folks have contributed more to Halo than many will ever know." Now, this Twitter user I don't believe is related to Halo or 343. He's an official artist for Magic and Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot, but he did comment on the recent situation, saying that Microsoft laying off 10,000 people while investing $10 billion in OpenAI is a major road sign for where we are headed, with Microsoft's investment in AI also being something that Bloomberg...
This is also something else that we need to talk about. The AI situation. I don't know if you guys have noticed this in the background. A lot of you probably haven't. But, like, there's an AI uprising. Like, AI developers, AI DMs for D&D, AI art. Like, all of that shit is starting to ramp up really hard right now. And I promise you, in, like, 10 years, there are going to be game releases that were completely made by AI. Game developed by AI. Created content for AI. Completely. And once that starts happening, there are going to be no devs. It's going to happen. I feel it happening right now as we watch this.
Briefly highlighted in their article covering the layoffs. Microsoft said that despite the mass layoffs, they still plan to hire people in strategic, competitive areas such as artificial intelligence. The goal being to make the workforce leaner by having artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but how many humans though, Panda? How many, right? You're completely correct, but if you can pay 50 people to do the job of 1,000, they're gonna do it, man.
Software take over what human beings can do. Here's a 2D artist who responded to Tyler Walpole's tweet about the recent layoffs by noting how scary it is the way Microsoft is investing so much in AI. Microsoft diving headfirst into the AI game is scary as hell to look at. They've already implemented an AI generator in their graphic design software, and it almost made me not want to use Windows anymore from the rage I felt. Tyler responded by speculating that AI is going to replace most white-collar jobs in very short order. It seems that's certainly a possibility. That's certainly a future that corporations would welcome. The more automated things can be, the less people they have to hire, the less they have to deal with human beings and
all right, man, have a good day at work.
To be treated as human beings rather than as tools to be discarded and exploited. The less corporations have to spend and the more control they can exert over the way their company runs. And keep in mind that as far as 343 specifically is concerned, this also comes at...
So here's the thing too about AI, like in general, right? You can, like, AI will never fully replace people. I don't think it'll ever be that good. I think AI will do certain things very easy, though. Like, let's say if you just want to pump out another Call of Duty, and you don't want, like, you don't want any story mode, you don't want anything that's, like, you know, complex people usually like, you don't care about the little bitty things. I think when you're talking about mass production of a game, I think AI will eventually just overtake all of that. And when it comes to AI art, like, I do believe that artists themselves can use AI art to better their art. It's a tool that can be used to make your own job easier if you work with it. And you could end up making a lot of money off of AI art. But you have to know how to use it, right? And it's a little scary, and people don't want to get into that, and they feel like it hurts the integrity of their art. But I think that it's a tool like anything else. And I have used AI art, and I can tell you right now, it's not one-to-one what you want. You can get roughly to where you want, but it'll never be what you really want.
After a number of major senior departures, as Video Games Chronicle reported in a series of articles back in December of 2022, Halo Infinite's multiplayer director Tom French quit 343. Here we have an article detailing that Halo Studio 343 is reportedly losing another member of its leadership team, referring to engineering director David Berger. This was reported back in September of 2022. Before that, we saw that 343 Industries head Bonnie Ross left 343 back in September of 2022.
We talk about the GOAT, Tom Ivan, making these posts.
And even before the game's launch, we saw major turnover for some very important roles. Back in October of 2020, Halo Infinite lost another director. Chris Lee is no longer working on the game following its recent delay. People could just feel that there was something off about the way the studio was being managed long before the rough and tumultuous launch of Halo Infinite. And now, following the game's launch, not only are we seeing that continue, but Microsoft's own mismanagement has led to talented and important key players in 343 getting the boot. And given that all this is happening during a low point in the Halo series, then sure, Forge helped spruce things up a bit, but we're far from Halo Infinite reaching its maximum potential. It just sucks to see all this happening on top of that, and it just...
I think Halo Infinite would have reached its maximum potential. Maximum potential. If it had released everything at once. If it had released multiplayer, single player, co-op, and Forge at the same time, like, you can't. So, like, games work on a rhythm of extremes. They're like shotguns. When you have a game release, all of the information has to be readily available right now, immediately, because first impressions are everything in this industry. They're everything. They are literally how the game starts and ends. Sometimes you have rare cases like No Man's Sky, where the initial thing is really terrible, and then later on they redeem themselves, but still, people still have the thought in their brain, No Man's Sky's scumbag development tricked me into wanting to buy the game. People will still have that in their brain. Your first impression with a game is everything. So if they release everything off the bat, their maximum potential would have been reached. It's impossible to get back to that at this point. People like me ain't gonna play it. Just saying. I played multiplayer with Panda, and I haven't played that game since. That's literally the last time I played the game.
This raises more concerns as to whether 343 and the Halo IP can have a bright future ahead of them. But regardless of what your opinion might be on the current state of Halo or the current state of 343, the fact remains that it sucks when people lose their jobs. People who, made an earnest effort to do their best work possible under shitty circumstances. So to those people, I hope you land on your feet. I hope you find greener pastures ahead. And for the people who are still at 343 Industries, hopefully this is something that the studio can rebound from. And, we don't want to lose the Halo IP. We really want to see it return gloriously in the future. So hopefully that's something that can happen.
I wonder how, this is just a small question. I wonder how much layoffs like this affect the economy. Beyond just you're no longer getting income, because a lot of people, when they get laid off, they get unemployment. You get unemployment for like sudden layoffs, usually. I wonder how devastating it is to an economy when you lay off 10,000 people who don't have a job. Like, think about that. Think about how much the government has to make up for that mistake. They have to come in and swoop in and be like, okay, we got you. Think about how much money that takes away from the entirety of everyone else. It's crazy when you really think about it.
Time will tell what the future will look like for 343 and Halo Infinite. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on these latest developments surrounding Microsoft's mass layoff that has severely impacted 343 in particular, and how you think this will impact the future of the studio and the Halo IP as a whole. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on YongYea. I'll see you guys next time.
Make sure to give him a follow, man. YongYea, actual legend. I am subscribed to this channel. Sorry, I switch between two channels over and over again, so I don't usually know which one's subscribed or not. But this guy's great. Actually, the GOAT. And it's fucking terrible, man. And the more you think about that kind of stuff, man, the more it just annoys me. I remember when we had the 800-person layoff for Blizzard Entertainment. I thought 800 people was a lot. I thought 800 people was a ridiculous amount of people to lay off. Laying off 10,000, like that's kind of like storybook villain levels of evil, right? It's insane. But yeah, that's the first video.